Greetings and salutations! Welcome to the EzeeLinux Show, version 18.5, recorded January the 22nd, 2018. I'm Joe Collins, your host. We have lots to talk about. We're going to talk about GNOME. We're going to talk about the forthcoming Ubuntu 18.04. We're going to talk about a lot of bash scripts, ladies and gentlemen. This time of year, when it's cold outside, I like to sit at my computer when there's nothing else to do, and I like to poke at writing scripts and playing around in the terminal. So there has been a lot of activity that has shown up on the EzeeLinux bash script page, and I want to go through a lot of those things and also show you some things that have not shown up there in the last few days that I'm working on in the background. And if we got time, I got some things. I got a thing I want to talk about. Let's put it that way. I got a thing. A major announcement coming soon here from this channel. And if we got time, we'll talk about it at the end of the video. As far as Linux news is concerned, well, there's been some fallout from all of the patches for Meltdown. We should get some patches for Spectre very soon coming down the pipe. And those of you who had issues with NVIDIA drivers and the Meltdown patch, I hope that you were able to figure that out. What happened when I installed them was that my main machine here quit working because it has an older NVIDIA card in it. And I happened to notice just before I started recording this that the new updated NVIDIA drivers for my card, the 340 drivers, have just come out. So when I get done with this video, I will install them and see what happens. Because I just got Linux Mint back running again on this machine. And that kind of leads into what I want to talk about here about this post that came from OMG Ubuntu a few days ago. And it's news about the forthcoming Ubuntu 18.04 LTS. And essentially what they're saying here is that it will ship with Nautilus version 3.26 because the GNOME project has decided that the newer version of Nautilus, which is the file manager in the GNOME desktop, is no longer going to support using the desktop itself as, putting icons on it. I don't know what else to say it, because basically the way that works is that the desktop itself becomes like a folder that you're working in all the time. And that functionality does come from the file manager. So if they remove it there, that means it just absolutely goes away. I don't even know if they could come up with an extension for that. So Ubuntu is going to ship the older Nautilus. And this trend has been going on with the GNOME project now for a couple of years, where they keep removing things from the GNOME desktop environment, and it either becomes an extension or it just goes away. Now, extensions are mostly maintained by the GNOME community. These are people that just write extensions, and you can install them if you like, whereas the main desktop features come from the GNOME project proper. At least I think that's how that works. And so it would seem to me that the only reason that I can think of that they're doing this is that they're lazy and they don't want to deal with maintaining these features, so they just get rid of it. I don't know whether that's true or not. They might have their own little devilish reasons, but I can tell you straight up right now that I don't like it. As a matter of fact, when I posted this story, it got a lot of reaction. I mean, a great deal of reaction here on the Facebook page. I will put the link to this story in the description for the video. You can read it for yourself. And this is the GNOME desktop, the way Ubuntu is doing it. It's what it looks like here, and this is the picture off of their article. And you see we have the icons on the desktop. And my opinion on this, this makes me really kind of, I don't know if angry is the word, but I'm just kind of about the whole situation, because I first noticed that GNOME was starting down this road a couple of years ago when I was playing around with a newer version, and I found out that I couldn't set up a network printer through the print application, the printer application that was being shipped with the GNOME desktop. When I inquired about that, I was told that I would have to open up an older application that had been around for a long, long time that was actually shipped with the desktop but there was no link to it in the menu, so you had to know it was there, and you had to actually run it from a terminal or, just do a command manually to get it to work. And the other option that I was told about was that you could log into the CUPS server from your browser. None of that is newbie friendly. What if you're brand new to Linux and you need a network printer, and there's nothing in any kind of documentation anywhere that tells you how to do it, so you have to go hunting on the internet and hope that you come across that. Real newbie friendly move there. Well, at that time, I was told by somebody at the GNOME project when I did that in a video that they would look at that. That has never changed. Then there was a controversy a couple of months ago, or when I say a couple of months, it could have been 6 months ago or a year. The way my brain is Swiss cheese, I have no concept of time. But it was a while back that we had the issue where GNOME had decided that they were going to declare war on indicator icons and applets. So different applications like TeamViewer, Simple Screen Recorder, Telegram, Skype, anything that would put an indicator up in the panel was not going to work anymore. Oh, but that would work in an extension. Maybe until we changed the GTK version that we were working on. So then it might work till then, but then it's not going to work. It was a very screwed up situation. Now GNOME has come along and said that we're not going to have any icons on the desktop. We're going to take that functionality away. GNOME 3 has not shipped with active icons turned on by default since day one. They decided that they didn't like that feature and they didn't ship with it. The only way to get it was to install GNOME Tweak, or that's now known as Tweaks, in the current desktop and turn it on. Now that functionality is just going to go away. I don't understand, and here's where I'm going to get in trouble, and I'm going to probably tick some people off and get hate mail in the comments and whatnot, but I'm going to be very honest about it. I don't understand why everybody wants to turn a desktop computer into a smartphone or a tablet. And I don't like these desktop environments that are trying to oversimplify everything, and the solution is just remove all the features. Now, I posted an article about that I wrote myself on the Facebook page. And a lot of people agreed with me on that point, because when I had the problem with the video drivers on this machine that I'm recording this video on, I took that as an opportunity to go play around with some other things. So I revisited GNOME on the Ubuntu 16.04, that GNOME, Ubuntu GNOME, that one, and also Ubuntu 17.10 with the GNOME desktop that you see in this picture on the OMG Ubuntu site. And I've got to admit, gang, I didn't like it very much. And when I was able to get Linux Mint running again, it was a huge sigh of relief that came out of me, because I like a traditional desktop environment. I like icons. I like indicators. I like menus. I like all that stuff. I mean, that's what I have been using in computers now for 25, 30 years when you talk about graphical environments. And I like that. I don't like this reduce everything to a button or eliminate it sort of thing. And I also had an interesting experience the other day where I was listening to the Brian Lunduke show when Matt Hartley was on there for Linux Thursday. I've been on that show myself. And Matt was talking about how much he liked Elementary OS. And I have a great deal of respect for Matt Hartley. He runs freedompenguin.com. He's a very good friend of the EzeeLinux project. But I got to tell you, I got to disagree with you, Matt. I loaded up Elementary OS, and it had been a long time since I'd taken a look at it. And I hated it. I just really don't like that one. That's just oversimplified. You can't change anything. And it's just, this stuff is not newbie friendly, gang. That's my big complaint with it. And all of this fragmentation in the Linux environment desktop wise, where everybody is now, it's not just a matter of what desktop you're using. Do you want to use GNOME, XFCE? Do you want to use Mate? No. Each one of them is now becoming their own environment. People are shipping their own apps. That's what Elementary is doing. Linux Mint is doing it as well. They're doing exactly the same thing to maintain a traditional look and feel to applications, the X apps. And everybody's trying to reinvent the wheel. And it's a duplication of effort. And not only, and for people outside of the Linux community, users and developers alike, it's totally bewildering. If you're going to develop an application at this point in time, think about how much easier it would be to do it on Windows. Now, I don't like Windows, but at least with Windows, you're developing for one desktop environment, whereas you go to Linux, you got to go, is it going to be Qt? Is it going to be GTK? What version of GTK am I going to use? What version of Qt am I going to use? Is this compatible with this? Will my indicators work? Won't they work? Should I put them in the application or should I not put them in the application? Come on, gang. This is silly. I mean, I don't think that everybody should be on one central desktop, but at the same time, wow, the development is going in a very scattered and splintered direction. And I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for that, and a lot of people are going to say some nastiness, but I had made it as a New Year's resolution that I was going to say exactly the way I felt. And it's just like I said to Brian Lunduke when I was on his show. There are too many Linux distributions, and there are not enough. Now, the one that I happen to can, be the most comfortable with and can use and like the way it looks and like the way it acts is Linux Mint. So my support is behind them. Of course, we'll pay attention to Ubuntu, what they're doing. It's so important. But gang, every time I go out and try something else or do something else, I'm always like, I don't like that. Let me get back to Mint, where everything makes sense. So that's my commentary on that particular story. Link will be in the description. Have at it in the comments, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to get tore up for that one. Okay, let's move on to talking about bash scripts, because I got a lot of things that I want to talk about. First of all, I want to thank everybody who has given me such positive feedback about the EzeeLinux bash script page. I posted this last night, and I just recently posted a couple of tools here. First of all, there's a new one that is on the page, which is called Show. Now, I posted a video for Up, but I'm not going to post a video for Show. This is Show. It's running. You're looking at it working right now. All Show does is just display text on a screen. Clears the screen and displays it. I wrote this to do the EzeeLinux Show. When I started doing this, I wanted a quick and easy way to display text from a terminal that would format it. So this is what Show looks like. And I'll show you how it works. If I press any key here, it's going to tell me I got no more files. And then if I press it again, it's going to exit. So to start a file, that's what we were looking at on the screen. So if I want to look at this, I just press Enter and then scroll up to the top, get it positioned right, and then I can do my presentation. If I had another file after that, then I would be able to go to the next one. So let's do that again, and this time around, let's just put in the a file that it can read. So I guess I'm going to have to do the whole thing. Hang with me for just a second. Well, no, I don't. I know what I can do. All right, let's do CYA, which is a little script file. All right, so now I have two files. And when I press Enter, the first file loads on the screen and you can look at it. You can do your presentation. And then when you're done with that, press any key. And now it loads this little script file. We can talk about that when I'm done with that. See how it says there are no more files? That just lets you know that if you're going to do it again, it's going to exit. And that's it. So that's all it does. And the idea is that I can take all your comments and whatever, I can throw them into a big text file or make a lot of little text files. So every time I hit a key, it goes to the next screen, that sort of thing. You get the idea. It's called Show. It's up there on the EzeeLinux bash script page. The other one that I just posted, and I did a video about this, is Up, which is an advanced update script for Ubuntu. If you happen to miss that video, you can check that out. That works on Debian, it works on Ubuntu, it works on Linux Mint. Watch the video, go to the page. But I did want to tell you about Show. And so those two are up there, and anybody who's into scripts and things like that can take a look at it. And finally, I want to show you another one of these that I have been working on. This one, I don't know whether I'm going to share because it is so specific to what I do. But I did want to talk about it, and if anybody out there would like a copy of it so that they can adapt it to their own environment, then I will give it to you. There's a much older version of this in the EzeeLinux bash script collection on the bash script page, and you can look at that if you want to. And this one is way more advanced because what it does... Okay, so let me explain this. I have a network of computers, and all of those computers are on... They have SSH running. And so therefore, I can be on one computer and I can log into another computer using SSH. I can also transfer files back and forth using rsync with SSH. So what that allows me to do is to sync up all the computers. And the way I've got this done is that I have an account on every one of those machines that's on the network. And what I want is to be able to be sitting at one machine, and I want to be able to take all... If I add anything to my data set, then I can just send it out to all the other machines. And so the next time that I want to get on the computer, if I want to sit down in front of another machine, it's synced up. See? So it's a homebrew sync locally. Now, I'm not doing this automatically, but at first I came up with a script called syncit, which would do it manually, and it was just a bunch of commands. Then I got to thinking about it, and I said, I wonder if I could come up with something that would go out and see what computers were on the network, and if they were there, go ahead and do the sync, because not all the computers are up at the same time, right? So there's 4 machines that are on the network, and of course, most of this is academic because I could probably look around and see what machine is on. It's not that big of a house. But the thing is that this was something's kind of a challenge. I wanted to automate it for myself. So that's what this does. So the first thing that you see is a function here called transfer status, which works with a later function, and we'll get back to that. And then we have transfer. And the first thing that it's going to do is... well, let's go down to execution and work our way back up. It's probably the best way to explain how this works. So the first thing that it does is to make sure that the ifconfig utility is installed. I realize that that is deprecated at this point, but it was easier to come up with a command to use ifconfig. So actually, the first thing it does when it runs is it gets the IP address for the local machine. And after it checks to make sure that that's installed, it does that right there. And then it throws it into a variable called local IP. And then it goes through and sets the host IP for each machine. So this is where you get it starting actually doing the syncing. So what it does for Dell 11, I'm going to be sending from this machine, is it will determine that this is the local machine, and it will exit out of that. So if we come back up here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. See, checking for host IP, and, well, let's see. Hold on. Let me get this straight. It's here. I don't mean to be confusing, but this is what I wanted to talk about. Okay, so the first thing it does is it tries to figure out if it's on... It doesn't want to try and sync to the local machine. So that's what this first part right here does. Right there. Okay, that if statement. And then the next thing it does is it grabs the host IP, and that is from the execution section. And then it checks to see whether the machine is actually up on the network with ping. It tests the exit status of ping, and if the exit status of ping is 0, then it will go ahead and run the sync. If not, it will exit and just return back to the script to continue down the next command. So that's what happens. If it's there, it syncs. If not, it says that it's skipping it because it's not on the network, and then it continues. Now, this is the actual syncit script part of it here. This is from the original syncit script, where what it's doing is it's doing the transfers for all of the different directories that I want to actually back up. So right now, if I want to change this, I'm going to have to go in here and manually do it, which is fine with me. And that's how that works. So this is each directory, and it just syncs it up over the network. Now that transfer status is a check. It looks at the exit status of the rsync command that's running. And if it's not 0, which would indicate that it ran perfectly, then what it does is it stops the script, because that means that the network is going down in the middle of all of those transfers, and that means half of it would be synced or wouldn't be synced, or it's not there, or whatever the deal is. So what this does is it just stops the script, and it says, you got a problem, you might want to go check on your network integrity. And you know how funky Wi-Fi can be. It can come up and come down and all this other stuff. So that's why that does that. And that's the script, and it's called sync all. And the problem with trying to share a script like this with everybody is the fact that I can't anticipate your setup, and you really have to be an advanced user. I mean, you already have to have SSH set up. You already have to understand how that works and how rsync works over a network. And if this is something that you can use, I wanted to show it to you because I thought it was really cool because it works quite well. I'll show you how it works. There's one machine up on the network. So all I have to do is type in sync all, and I don't think there's any files to sync because I probably did this and I haven't changed much, but you'll get an idea of how it works. So let me put another L in there or it's going to fail. But see, okay, it's determined that it's coming from this machine, and now there's one machine on the network and it tries to sync everything up. There's not anything to sync because it was just recently done. And there you go. Now, if all of those machines were up on the network at that time and I fired that off, then all of the changes from this machine would be synced to all the other machines. So I wanted to show that to you just because I thought it was fun. You know, the thing about writing programs is that you're constantly trying to figure out the what ifs. And I've got a book somewhere where it says that people who develop scripts to automate things are aggressively lazy. That is definitely true, because you will sit there. Now, I already had a program that did this, which would mean that I would actually just type in the same command 3 times and change the little number on the end to tell it what machine to go to. So I spent like 2 days sitting here working on this thing so it would just do it automatically, man. But that's how you teach yourself, and it's how you learn. And I wanted to share that with you guys. I thought maybe some of you would get a kick out of it. And if you want a copy of the script, I'll be happy to send it to you. There's nothing personal in here. All of the network addresses, they're very arbitrary. Everybody's got, anybody with a 192.168 type network, netmask24, is going to be using similar stuff. So there's nothing personal in here that I'm giving away, other than the name of the local machines. But who cares, right? I mean, you'd have to be able to get into the network through my firewalls, and that is plural, walls. I don't think you're going to be able to do that, to be able to get in here and do anything with it. Okay, so that is what I wanted to talk about bash scripts. And I guess one more comment to make on this is that I get these comments all the time from people who say they hate the terminal and they don't understand why it exists, and they loathe the command line. And it always makes me shake my head, because when you're sitting down in front of a Linux computer, you have so much power sitting there in front of you, it's unbelievable. And just because you are not inclined to learn how to harness it doesn't mean that you should despise it. And it's all a matter of attitude. Anybody can learn how to do anything if they get their mind right. If you set your mind to the task and say, well, I'm going to do this, and you look at it as a fun adventure, you can get so much more out of your computing time. If you say, I don't have time for that and I don't want to deal with it, then you will never have time for it, and you will never deal with it, and it will be an endless frustration if you want to continue to run Linux. And I think anybody who considers themselves to be a serious Linux user, I mean, not necessarily that you have to write scripts or programs or crunch code or any of that stuff. I think you should have a nodding relationship with it, because it's such a huge part of Linux. This being able to write little tiny scripts. They don't have to be complex. They can be just a few lines long. It's so powerful. It empowers you to be able to automate different tasks that you need to do, and to have some idea of how to do that. Now, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Modern Linux distributions like Ubuntu Mate and Linux Mint, for instance, you can set the entire system up without never opening a terminal. But if you find yourself loathing it, hating it, and you want to express that to people who are trying to help you, you're just putting out a whole bunch of negative energy that doesn't help anything. Okay? It doesn't help a thing. And if you want to, I don't know, I mean, it just gets your mind right. If you want to be comfortable and happy with something, that's going to require a little bit of effort on your part. And it's very rewarding, I can tell you that much. Because, well, I mean, I used to program automation systems. Back in the 90s, I started working with that. And so up from about 1993, 94, actually, I know when it started. March of 94 was when I started working with that stuff. And then up until 2007, I was always working with these automation systems in some capacity or another. And the programming of the automation was very much, you're just telling the machine what to do step by step. You didn't ever want it to think for itself. So the logic was very straightforward. At this time you will do this, and then you will do this, and then you will do this. And that's it. So when I started to learn about Bash and C, the C programming language and all that stuff, the biggest hurdle for me was understanding the flow, because it's not step by step. As you can see here, we have functions in this script, and it can loop back around, and you can create different things that do different tasks, like you can have it process and go through files and all kinds of stuff. That was hard for me to master. Very difficult for me to understand. If statements, case statements, those sorts of things. Because of the fact that I'm used to this logical, straightforward, boom, 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 do this, this, and this. But once I got my head wrapped around it, now I don't have to think about it, because it's like, oh, wow. And working in a terminal, even just doing basic things, is just one. You get a few basic concepts under your belt, and then you'll find it to be very rewarding. For me, working through my own little mental blocks about, oh, I'm used to things working this way, and this is different, has been very rewarding, because now I get to write these little programs and share them with you, and I get so much great feedback from people, and people take these things and do awesome stuff with it. So that's very cool. I just wanted to say that before we moved on. Now, the bash scripts page, finally here. Let's just take a quick look at what we have up currently for those of you who are new to the party. We have CYA. I did not write this program. I consulted and beta tested this program with a fellow named Jeremy O'Connell at CyberWeb Solutions. CYA takes a snapshot of your Linux system, and what it does is it lets you roll back. It's sort of like System Restore. You might be used to that in Windows, but it works in Linux, and it gives you a lot of different options. Then there is XBT, which is a backup program. XBT is made specifically to do one task and do it well. Take everything in the home directory on your Linux system and put it on an external drive. You can do it with more than one computer and use the same hard drive for all of those computers. It has a restore function, which only works with the original computer. That means it's going to work with the original username and the original computer name. But that doesn't mean that your data is locked up. Somebody sent me a thing the other day and said, I can't get to it. Yes, you can, because all the data is stored in the open. Plug in the drive, use your file manager, navigate to the script, and you're good to go. I mean, not to the script, but to the data that you need, and drag and drop it. I got scripts in the head. Okay, up. That was recently added. That's sort of a more advanced update tool for Ubuntu and Debian systems. And we have an introduction to up, and then there is show, we've already talked about in this video. And a couple of things that are hanging around. This is the bash script collection. These are older versions of things that I have since updated, like XBT, and you can look at Sync It the way that was and all that stuff. And those are just to give you ideas, to springboards to get off of. And then we have, this is the XBT 1.7. That's available for you guys in that bash script collection if you're using Ubuntu 14.04 or Linux Mint 17.3. Now, those two distributions, they lose support in April, so at that point, this will probably go away. The bash script collection is not going to stay up here forever, gang. Just letting you know. And then bash scripts, tweaks, and tricks. And honestly, I can't remember what that's about because I did that a long time ago. So you can go download the zip file and see what's in it for yourself. Isn't that sad? I posted it and I don't know what it is. Ubuntu installation scripts. These are scripts that I keep on hand to be able to install all of the applications I would need on an Ubuntu and Linux Mint system, and I'm sharing them with you, and you can download those and change them, and there's the disclaimer, and that's the end of that. I really honestly can't remember what that was about. It's some video I did a long time ago. I'd have to watch it, so you can check that out if you like. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're about done here. I've rambled on and got myself in trouble with the community as much as I possibly can. Coming up here in the next week or two, I'm going to have an announcement. Valentine's Day is coming, and I'm going to make somebody have a very happy Valentine because I'm going to show you some love because everybody has been so nice with all of your nice comments and your subscriptions and your likes and everything that you've done, and this little community has grown and grown and grown, and it's awesome. So I'm going to be doing a little giving back. Let's put it that way. So I'll tell you more about that as we get a little bit closer to it because Valentine's Day is the big day. So be thinking Valentine's Day. Until we do this again, be sure to check out EzeeLinux on Facebook. Check out EzeeLinux on the web as well at EzeeLinux.com. And this is where the bash scripts page is, man. So I'll have a link to the EzeeLinux page in the description for the video. And also check out freedompenguin.com for lots of really cool things about Linux. I know that Matt is going to be doing a big video coming up here about elementary, and I want to watch it because I hated it. And I want to see why he likes it. So that's going to be fun. And that will be on Freedom Penguin for sure. And you can check that out as well. And there's a lot of people that contribute to Freedom Penguin. I do. Other people do. And it's a great place to look. So thank you for your kind attention. We shall do it again soon.